Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So today we're clearing up a huge misunderstanding that I see all the time when people start working with insurance paid midterm rentals. This one here, it's a biggie. So I saw a post the other day in one of the groups I'm in, and it said something like this. Hey, I got my first insurance tenant in Arcadia, California. The insurance is paying for their stay, and I know the lease will be with the insurance company. Okay, pause. Let's talk about that. Because I promise you, if you're thinking that your lease is with the insurance company, we need to fix that ASAP. So in this thread on online, I jumped in and my reply was, your lease is not with the insurance company and you're probably not even talking to the insurance company at all. And listen, I get it. If you're new to this, it's totally confusing, but here's how it really works. So the tenant, the actual person staying in your property, is the one signing the lease. The insurance company does not sign your lease. They aren't the tenant. They're just the one footing the bill. Most of the time, you're dealing with a third party agency, not the insurance company. Actually, a lot of the time. So, agencies like ALE Solutions or National Insurance Housing, they're the ones handling the placement, but they're not signing the leases either. So, here's an example to maybe make this click. Think about it like this. Imagine you're booking a hotel for a work trip, which, by the way, I used to do when I was a corporate traveler. So my job would pay for the hotel, but I was still the one who had to check in at the front desk and sign all the paperwork. And I had to give a credit card for incidentals, which technically was not supposed to be my corporate card. So if I broke a TV in the hotel room, which I never did, but I know some people who did, my company would not cover that. That was on me, or again, in this case, the person who broke whatever they broke in the room. So it's the same thing here. The agency might be paying, but the person staying in your house is the one responsible for following the terms in the lease. Hey, by the way, if you're finding this helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have questions or any comments, drop those down below and I'll make sure that I respond to the comments. And if there's any questions that warrant another video, I'll make another video out of it. All right, now let's get back to it. All right, so now that we know who's actually signing the lease, let's talk about how the money works, because this is another spot where people get tripped up. The insurance company pays the third party agency, like an ALE Solutions. The third party agency pays you, the property owner, or if you happen to be arbitraging, however that works. And the guest living in the home is the one that's responsible for signing the lease, following the lease, and the lease terms. And that's why when you have an issue like damages or an overstayed lease, you're dealing with the guest directly, not the insurance company or even that agency. That's also why your lease needs to be airtight and set up like you would with any other midterm rental guest. And a lot of times they follow the same premise as a long-term rental lease. So the person who made the post came back after my response and said, well, I got the lead from Alacrity, so my lease must be with them, right? And can I have them sign the house rules? Again, nope, that is not how this works. First thing is, Alacrity is not your tenant. They're just a middleman who arranges the payment. Number two, your lease and house rules are signed by the person actually staying in the house. And if you want to include things like quarterly inspections, which is what this person asked about as well for their house rules, you have to put that in your lease. Now let's talk about that last part, the quarterly walkthroughs or monthly, however you'd like to do it, because this part is really important. So can you visit the property while a tenant's there? Sure, but only if it's in your lease and you give proper notice. You can't just pop up unannounced like, hey, I'm just checking in. Nope, you can't do it. So what's a best practice? Include a clause in your lease that says you'll conduct a quarterly or monthly property inspection, whatever you want to do, with at least 24 to 48 hours notice. That way your tenant is aware from the start and you don't run into issues later. By the way, this is the same thing you have to do on a long-term lease. I see many people make these types of mistakes when they first start out. And look, I get it. It's confusing, but if you get this right from the jump, you avoid a lot of headaches down the road. And so some of the common mistakes that people make still is they're thinking the lease is with the insurance company. It's not. Not knowing how the payment actually works. Letting the agency dictate the terms instead of setting them with the guest. And then forgetting to include property access clauses in their lease or rules like no parties, the limit to the number of pets, the types of things that you might want to make sure they don't do. Like in all of my leases, there's no smoking or open flame candles allowed in the house. I can't hold the insurance agency or a third party agency liable for that. That's on the tenant. So here's what you should do instead. Always have your lease signed by the tenant. Be clear about your house rules, your pet policies, your utilities, things like that. Set expectations for property visits in your lease and make sure your payments are coming from the right source. Look, at the end of the day, understanding this process is what separates the pros from those people that are just winging it. And I want all y'all to win in this business. So the good news, once you get how this works, insurance paid midterm rentals are an absolute game changer. These tend to be the longer stays, they're more stable, and they can be very profitable if you set them up correctly. Now, before you accept an insurance paid stay, again, make sure you understand who you're dealing with, who is signing your lease, how the payments will be handled, and what terms you need in your lease to protect your property. Okay, I'm going to say those again a little more slowly. Make sure you know who you're actually dealing with. Who is signing your lease? How will payments be handled? And what terms you need in your lease to protect your property. Now, if you get all that squared away up front, you'll be in a much better position to run a smooth and profitable midterm rental business long term.